Now with a working preamp, we can flip the chassis over and turn our attention to the power amp, which I haven't had powered on yet. First of all, I think I will also trace out the schematic for future reference. And I think I might be able to do it without unmounting the board, just by using X-ray flashlight from the side here. I like the quirky factor and all, but I will not leave the nails for the next person. There should be screws in there. If required, one could also remove the insulation and put some conductive foil tape inside of the enclosure and connect it to ground, and thereby create a little electromagnetic shielding, which this doesn't have at the moment. But I will see how noisy it actually is in when you use it. Might be a possible mod. Yeah, let's try to pull some grime off the toe legs. I like to use some basically like upholstering or carpet cleaning foam, just not anything with like silicones in it. Oftentimes you see people using car dashboard reconditioner or stuff like that, but that's mostly just full of silicones and they stick forever and nasty stuff. So carpet foam it is. Like I think it should also work on this front panel here if we're careful. Get rid of some of the dust first. I also have to pull out the dent here. This amplifier did not come with the original knobs. Somebody stole those, very unfortunately. The original ones would have looked like this, but instead of the silver knobs here matching the silver faceplate, they would have had like a brownish gold color matching the faceplate of this amp. You would think, oh, those are just like Marshall knobs, but actually no, they are much taller and in general like kind of a different shape than a Marshall knob. Although I guess those wouldn't look too much out of place here. For this one though, I have these little guys. They are matching, pretty much matching shape, like tall, slightly tapered with a little nose on top and a silver disc. Maybe a tad too small, but I think they will do the trick and they won't look too much out of place like a Marshall knob. Now let's see if this situation here can be straightened out a little bit. Looks like it took a hit on the volume pot and like squished it inwards. So I'll have to push it back out. For that, I think I will try to remove the pot first. Oh, look at this funny acrylic spacer under there. Interesting. Yeah, I think that's passable. Yeah, couldn't resist putting the amplifier together to see what it looks like and to play it through its own speakers. And it works. All the functions work, both channels work and all the inputs and so on. But unfortunately, there's a scratchy sound going on the softer, quieter notes, which indicates we might have a problem with the power transistor biasing and we might have some crossover distortion going on. So let's open it back up and take a look. Alright, so first we'll check for DC offset. That means I've got my multimeter connected across the speakers here with the amplifier running and no signal present. And I'm just checking up here, and since it's warmed up, we're really at 0.0 millivolts. So that's exactly what we want to see. And I've expected this since we replaced the big output capacitor here. So the signal passes through this before it goes to the speakers, and this will keep away any DC. So that's fine. This means this cap is working perfectly. The next thing will be to check these two like emitter resistors, the big white box kind of things, across those output transistors. Unfortunately, I don't have the manufacturer data sheet for the amplifier. I'm not sure what the current through these should be. But I figured out it's often like in a range of anything around like 40 milliamps to 100 milliamps, so like small current. And I can measure the voltage drop across these two resistors, and I know they are 0.22 ohms each. So I should be able to measure that and calculate what we've got going on. .58 millivolt, that's like almost nothing. That's weird. I'm following a completely new trace in the whole power amp distortion issue. After checking the bias and the voltages of the transistors and trying to adjust a little bit hotter and not getting any change, I thought of question my sanity a little bit and went on to do what I should have done right away and tested with a different set of speakers, like just this little speaker in there. And the issue disappeared. So it is in fact the speakers. And I thought it wouldn't be the speakers because I could clearly hear it coming from both at the same time. And usually you would have like one of them fail and not both. So I tested them individually by disconnecting the wires and hooking up this one and then this one. And both of them do the weird distortion issue. So 2 shot speakers in there. Let's remove one of them. Ooh. Okay. Don't pull on this part. I will need both hands again. There we go. No obvious tears or defects in the membrane at first glance. There could always be like tiny little cracks up here. Have to investigate that a little bit closer. And the second thing to always check is for voice coil rub. You can feel by moving it. That's feeling smooth. I don't feel any rub, so where's the problem? I don't know. Hold on, it's getting wilder. So I pulled out this speaker, couldn't find any defects. I tested it on another amplifier, and this speaker worked fine. No distortion. So I put it back in, still hooked up to an external amplifier, and when I play it, I get a distortion again. So that tells me it's something mechanical. And usually in a combo amplifier you can have loose stuff rattling around, and of course I have all this cable flying around here and everything could rattle. But you wouldn't believe it, the noise is coming from the speaker that's not hooked up. I don't have any signal going through this, but once I touch the membrane, the noise stops. Check this out. This speaker is making the noise, so let's pull this one. And I bet there's gonna be like a crack in the membrane or something. No, I lost my own bet. It's a rubbing voice coil. I've fixed torn membranes before, but I never really tried fixing a rubbing voice coil. And usually it needs like a complete recone of the speaker, but this tiny 8-inch one isn't really worth it. I read about a technique where you remove the dust cap in the middle, try to center the voice coil in a magnet gap to eliminate the rubbing, and then basically soak the spider, which is this yellow part down in there, which is centering cone. Now let me see. Yeah, down in there is the spider. You soak it in acetone so it softens, and when it dries you kind of recenter the speaker. I've never attempted that, but hey, let's try it. Point of no return. Hope I'm able to just cut it off. And this is not the style you see usually where it's glued on a membrane. Instead, it's kind of glued on the voice coil itself. That's delicate. Not really sure how to start the cut. I will try to leave it attached on one end, so maybe, hopefully, I can super glue it back in place later. And now we have the gap of the voice coil exposed, at least the inner diameter. Not sure if you can see that down in there. So what you're looking at, the metal is part of the magnet, and this little cardboard tube has the coils, like the voice coil on the outside. This pretty much just moves up and down. And it's supposed to not touch the magnet, and if it does, it makes a sound. Like that. When I press it down here, I give it sort of like a bias in this direction, and it does not scratch. But when I go opposite, it's pretty bad, which tells me the rubbing is most likely up here in this section. So I don't know, hopefully by putting some paper shims all around, I'm able to recenter it. Let's see. Now I have paper on 4 sides. And it's kind of stuck. And yeah, that's, I don't know, that's what it's supposed to do, I guess. Hopefully more centered than before, I don't know. Okay, I got some acetone in a syringe, and here goes nothing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm literally just following some forum advice from some 20-year-old hi-fi forum. It said like to moist the part that's called the spider here with some acetone, which is supposed to soften it. It seems to soak up the acetone. The acetone has dried off, so let's pull the shims and see if it did anything. Although I must admit I'm not very confident yet. Okay, moment of truth. Maybe it got a little bit better, I'm not sure. It's still a rubbing speaker. Is it worth trying it again? Maybe with more shims to bias it in that direction? I think it improved a little bit, but it's still rubbing, so I'm trying again with more shims in there. And this is like as tightly packed as I can. So let's wet the spider again, and that's fun. Let's wet the spider again. Yeah. All right, gluing back the dust cap was a little bit more tricky than anticipated because I cut it off in a slightly stupid way, but yeah, that's how you learn. But listen to that. I can't hear anything, can you? Okay, so let it dry and then we can test it, but fingers crossed, right? so here we have it. The amp is up and working. The speaker repair has worked out pretty good so far. Overall, it's not a very loud amp. It's not the most powerful power amp, and probably also because the speakers are not the most efficient in there, and also like two tiny 8-inch speakers. What do you expect? The most interesting feature to me is the control called MIDI Bassi, which is like middle bass on one control. Shapes the response of the amplifier from more of a mid-scooped, lots of bass, lots of treble, what you would expect from like a Fender-y type sound, to a very mid-rangey sound with less bass. At the moment I'm running it almost entirely to the right, which is like the Fender-y side. And I will play that a little bit and then run it all the way over to the other side so you can hear the difference when I switch it to the more mid-range setting. Let's try that. This is like the extreme far right of the control. Extreme left. As you can tell, it makes a lot of difference. I like to run it pretty far right towards the more Fender-y side, because I think it works well overall with like the cabinet and the tiny speakers. Next thing, I'm going to switch from the Brilliant to the normal input, just so you can hear the difference there. Now, the interesting part, let's engage the reverb. A little bit more noise right away, but I think the small tank with like the tiny springs is pretty interesting in that it makes like a small room sound. At first I thought, hey, let's replace it with a big tank, should be easy. But I actually dig the tiny, it sounds almost like you're playing in a tiled bathroom or whatever, listen to that. some distortion on it, right? Wow, you can really tell it makes an extreme difference. It's almost like a wah pedal in there, and I think a very useful feature. To complete the little tour, I will finally try channel 2, which sounds a lot different, but is also a lot plainer and maybe was intended, I don't know, to put organ in there or whatever. So normal input, second channel, about the same volume level. This time we have a regular treble and bass controls, and they're both in the middle. So here's what we get. Let's try the brilliant input. A lot more usable straight away. Some drive in there as well. That's harsh. Maybe you want the normal input for drive. If you ask me, that's pretty fun. It's not really a stage amplifier, it's not powerful enough for that. I mean, if you mic it, maybe yes. But overall, I think it's a fun little thing to play around and for recording to get some more unique textures. And the MIDI buzzy control and like a small room reverb alone make it worth it in my opinion. And the good old Falcon 125.
125 2C.
Very rare amplifier and now a fully working cool piece of the collection. Thanks a lot for watching and I hope you enjoyed this. Catch you next time. Bye. So while this Falcon amplifier is already exceedingly rare, I'm pleased to tell you there's something else. Falcon Deluxe. Yeah, but that's a story for another time. And no, wait, hold on, I'm gonna show you. While the Falcon 125 is this 2x8 combo, the Falcon Deluxe, as you can tell straight away, is a much larger amplifier. In fact, we have a 2x12 box, which sounds amazing. This is my favorite speaker cabinet I own. I love to run like tube amps and everything through it. It sounds great, and it's just about the perfect size for like an oversized 212. And the head on it is like very similar. You have two channels as well. Falcon Deluxe, model 500GR, no idea what that stands for, all transistor. Notice it's in English this time, not no and C, but on and off. Channel number 2, volume, treble, and medium bass. That's how they translate like the MIDI bussy. It's the same control, same interesting feature. Two inputs there. On the first channel, we have medium bass as well, tremolo, and reverb, which is super interesting in that you have a tone control for the reverb with like 3 settings on a switch that gives the reverb different tones. Unfortunately, this is not working right now, so this will be a separate video. I just wanted to show you why I was so interested in the little Falcon. I had the Falcon Deluxe for years and years. It's one of the first old amps I ever got. Paid $50 for it.